Hello, y'all. Welcome back. Today, I want to talk about anxiety and navigating this process with anxiety. As someone who feels like, listen, my anxiety wakes me up way before I know I'm awake. Does that make sense? Like, I feel like I hear my anxiety before my eyes fully open in the morning. Like, it just slaps me in the face every morning. And I used to think I need to get rid of it. I need to remove it. Life would be so much better if I didn't have it. And then I started to realize and accept the reality of the truth. The anxiety is not going anywhere. And the more I try to fight it and push it down and push it away, the more problems I cause for myself and those around me. And so everything changed for me when I started to have a different relationship with my anxiety. When I stopped making it a problem and I started to realize it's just my little friend that's with me all the time. And so in this episode, I want to invite you to consider, what if your anxiety, your panic attacks, and your depression and anything associated with it, what if it's not a problem? What if it doesn't mean anything is wrong with you? What if it doesn't mean that you're broken? What if it just is what it is? How would that change this doctoral process for you? And how would it change the rest of your life? That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, let's get it. So anxiety, first of all, what does it feel like to you in your body? Like, how does it feel? If you had to describe it to someone else, like my brother called me, or he'll often ask me, you keep talking about you're too anxious or this. I don't know what anxiety is. How would you describe it? And because I'm being funny and it's my brother, what I tell him is like, it's as if he loves to bowl. So I was like, you went to a bowling alley and you took your wife, my sister-in-law, with you. And another girl came up to y'all at the bowling alley and was like, oh, you remember me from last week? I gave you my phone number. And now you got to process that. Now, y'all probably like, what is happening with that example? But I need you to know that you got to meet people where they are. That's what I learned in student affairs. You got to meet people where they are. And where my brother is, that example hits home for him. I'm so glad you listen to this. But essentially, I was like, it's that feeling, that oh shit feeling, that you realize that not only is every lie about to come to surface, you probably about to lose your marriage. That feeling in the pit when your stomach drops and you got your thoughts pacing 50 million miles an hour and you're trying to figure out what to do, but you can't hold on to one thought. I'm like, that's kind of like anxiety. Now, that probably is a more intense form of anxiety, but I needed him to understand what I was saying. And so for me, it's just my everyday normal, I would say, is anxiety is like this low grade buzzing in the background. Like the sound that the refrigerator makes or the sound that technology makes, and you don't notice that it even has a hum or a buzzing sound until the power goes out. And then it's like, oh, it's quiet. That's how I think about anxiety. I just think it's like it's playing around in the background and it's telling me how everything is going wrong. I don't ever do nothing right. That something bad is going to happen, that I don't need to get too comfortable. The other shoe is going to drop. It's always looking for something. It's sensing danger. It's trying to warn me about the danger. And I hear that all day, every day, just walking through life, just in my sleep, whatnot. And people will just try to tell you, like my brother used to say, just think positively. It's like, well, if it was that simple, friend, don't you think I would just be quote unquote positive? But what I've learned as I started to be like, okay, clearly, even with medication, this anxiety ain't going nowhere. So how we just be friends? I want to invite you to make friends with your anxiety. And this might be furthest from the thing that you actually want to do. But what if you did make friends with your anxiety? Because anxiety is an internal warning system. It is your internal alarm. The way that a therapist described it to me, she's like, think about that you have a house, like your body is a house and you have a front yard and there's a dog in the front yard. And dogs' job, they like to bark when something is coming up, when somebody's unfamiliar, they like to alert you, right? And so think about your anxiety as that dog. It's like, I'm trying to alert you. Is there's a strange person walking up? Now, they could be somebody who's coming to deliver the mail, somebody who's coming, like you invited over to your home, or it could be an intruder. It could be someone who's coming to harm you, right? The dog don't care who they are. All the dog knows is, I don't know this person. I don't know what to expect. And if I have to assume, it's going to always be bad, because it's better to be safe than to be sorry, right? Like, it's better to know, like, to think this is an intruder and do what we need to do to protect ourselves than to think it's not an intruder and then we call out here slipping, right? I hope y'all listen. I probably shouldn't be recording this episode right now because I probably need to, I'm going to eat after this, but I'm telling you, my brain is all over the place. So y'all about to get, however this episode comes out is how it comes out, y'all, because I haven't been using in a script. Okay, so that's how I think about anxiety. And so the dog is just trying to warn you. Now, you may have a very diligent dog. Your dog might be like my puppy, Sir, who like, oh, if the wind blows too hard, he barking because he needs you to know that there's danger because his anxiety is off the charts, y'all. And I get very much when people say dogs are like their owner. Okay, this is not, you know what this is? This is not me not having a script. It's me full-fledged in my ADHD. But if you have ADHD or ADD, you're welcome. This is what's happening today. That means like I'm gonna be all over the place. Okay, but like the dog. Okay, so the dog is warning you. Your dog may be very active because you may have had a lot of intrusions in your life. You may have had a lot of things come up that you had to deal with. And you made a promise to yourself probably several times throughout your life that you won't ever be put in a position where you didn't see the thing coming, that you were caught off guard, that it was a surprise, not in a good way. And so you work really hard to scan your environment to see, okay, are there any potential threats? And you got so good at this that now it's kind of subconscious. That's what anxiety is doing. Your anxiety is just simply trying to say, hey, look out for this, watch out for this. And so we don't need to make it a problem because it's just doing its job. Now it might do its job a little bit too much, but hey, that's the type of anxiety you have. And if we can learn to not make it a problem, but make it a friend, if we can learn to work with it, you may find that the intensity of it will come down because anxiety starts off as a whisper. It starts off as a low grade, like, I don't know about that. Are we sure? And the more you try to ignore it, or the more it thinks it's being ignored, it's a whole person, go with me. The more it feels ignored, the louder it becomes, right? If you have a dog or a baby, you know this to be true. Right? Sir has been over here asking me for my popcorn because that's what I'm eating. He's been asking me for my popcorn. And at first it was like, I'ma just sit by you. And then when I did not acknowledge him, he repositioned himself across the room so he can give me the death stare and be like, maybe if I stare at you hard enough, then you will notice. And then when I still wasn't paying attention, then he started doing this little silent cry situation that he knows gets on my last nerve. And I still didn't pay him no attention. And so then it gets louder and louder, right? He keeps going up and up and up in intensity until eventually in his mind, I cave in and give him the popcorn. I give him what he needs. Your anxiety is the same way. It will start off as a whisper and then it will get louder. And then before you know it, if you don't answer it, it's going to, I call it house party at 3 a.m. As you up in the middle of the night and it's like boom, 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 boom. That's how mine sounds. And I'm like, okay, girl, what is it that you want? And so that's the first thing I'm going to invite you to do. What is it that your anxiety is trying to tell you? Because it's trying to tell you something. So if you come inside of the Finish Your Dissertation program, when clients, if I'm coaching a client, they're like, oh, I'm concerned, I don't want to turn in my draft. One of the questions that I will always probably ask is like, what's the worst that's going to happen? And you're going to probably want to recoil from that. You're probably like, why you ask me? That's the whole point. I don't want to go there. But you need to go there because your anxiety is trying to tell you something. So when me asking a question of like, what's the worst that could happen allows you to sit down and be like, okay, anxiety, tell me all the things. And I will tell clients that I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to your anxiety. I know the difference of talking to the client themselves and talking to their anxiety. I know how to talk to anxiety. I talk to mine. And I say, what's the worst that can happen? Now your anxiety has room. Now the dog has room to say, there's an intruder. But it's not enough to say, oh, I'm concerned about turning in my draft because my chair is going to tell me it's awful. We need to go further. Why would they say it's awful? What exactly about your writing or your draft is going to lead your chair to be like, that's the worst thing I've ever read before, like in my life? Right? Because then that forces you to go deeper. Most people won't go deeper than, oh, I just have the anxiety, because you're concerned that it's going to get worse if you go deeper. But what I want to offer you is you're living the worst case scenario now. Like you're living the most intense version of your anxiety now because you're ignoring it. But when you give it space and you say, please tell me what's really going on, it automatically brings it down because now it could tell you what the issue is. It's trying to warn you about something. So to go back to this example of you're going to turn in a draft, you're scared to turn in a draft because you think your chair is going to say it's the worst thing they've ever read. Okay, why would they say it's the worst thing? You may be saying like, well, my writing is just awful. Yeah, but what about your writing is awful? right? Is it the style of writing? Is it the word choice? Do you need to run it through like Grammarly? Like, what exactly are we talking about when we say it's the worst writing? If you allow yourself to calmly answer that question, you will be shocked at what comes up. Most of the time, people will be like, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. I'm like, I know. You're just letting anxiety warn you about something, but you don't know what it's warning you about. That's not helpful. So you have to get really clear on what is it that you are afraid of? What is it that you think is the worst case scenario? And I would encourage you to actually write this down, because there's a different part of the brain that's activated when you write it down. What is it that you are afraid of? And when it comes to the thing that you are afraid of, what's the worst case scenario? Like, I want you to give it details, because here's the thing: we cannot solve an issue that we don't know exists. You can't get a clear solution if you don't have a clear problem, and it may not even be a problem. So what's the worst case scenario? If the worst thing happens, right? Another common thing that comes up is I'm going to get kicked out of my program. Okay, what happens? So let's say you get a letter from the graduate school and they say you got to go. Bye. What's going to be your next course of action? Because if you can imagine, here's the worst case scenario, and this is what I would do if it happened, your anxiety, it decreases another notch. Because all anxiety wants you to do is have a plan. It wants acknowledgement and it wants a plan. It wants to know, what will we do if this happens? And just because you're creating a plan of, I would do this if it happens, doesn't mean you're saying it will happen. But you don't have to constantly think about it and carry it around with you, being like, oh, I'm scared they're going to kick me out. Oh, I'm scared. Because you're like, well, if they do, this is what I'm going to do. You shut it down. Like, anxiety is like, oh, okay. You tell the dog, like, I got you. This person is delivering the mail. Or, oh, this person is bringing the Instacart order. Calm down, friend. And it's like, oh, okay. Because the dog takes a cue from you, right? Like, if you have a dog, it takes its cue from you, like, oh, my owner is calm. I could probably be calm. Again, unless you got a dog like mine who does no chill, just none. He don't even notice that I'm calm. All right. But this is not about, clearly I need to talk it out about with Sir, because Sir's my puppy, by the way, if you're new here. I clearly probably need a whole episode dedicated to him, because I don't think y'all understand. Okay, y'all just see him, you think he's real cute, but you don't understand the life that I'm over here leading. Okay, I'm dealing with my anxiety, his anxiety is a lot. Okay, I'm back. So once you figure out what you are afraid of, what's the worst case scenario, and what you would do about it, then you want to ask yourself, do I like that plan? Like, would I be down with that plan? If the worst case scenario and I'm going to do this, would I be down with that plan? And if the answer is yeah, like, I'm not saying if you want it to happen, I'm saying, if it happened, are you okay with that course of action? Because in that, y'all, I'm telling you, even just having that one conversation, even just having that plan will bring the anxiety down, right? So in the morning, because I mentioned that at the top of this episode of like, anxiety is like, boom. And what it sounds like in the morning is like, girl, we got to do this and we got to do that. And you need to get up, and I think you slept too long. And I don't know, like, the world is crumbling. Like, my anxiety just needs to do that in the morning. And I say, hey, friend, listen, girl, listen. So we're going to sit in this bed for another 30, 45 minutes. Why? Because we set the alarm an hour early to do that very thing. And it's not a problem. We're going to stay in the bed. We're going to watch a few YouTube videos, right? But at this time, we're going to get up. We're going to go brush teeth. We're going to have a bio break, right? Get dressed. We're going to let the dog out. We're going to get some chai tea. And then we're going to do morning pages, right? I have to say that every morning to my brain. Why? Because I already thought this out of what I was going to do when I woke up. I already have a plan, but my anxiety may have forgotten it a little bit. And so it's running this whole list of things that could go wrong for the day, or that I shouldn't be in the bed in the morning. And I have to remind it, hey, girl, hey, I got a plan. Here's the plan. And when I go through that plan in my head in the morning, the anxiety comes down. She's still there, but she's not as intense as she was when I first opened my eyes. And yes, I gendered my anxiety. You do you. What would it look like for you to have a very direct conversation with your anxiety that way? If you didn't make the anxiety a problem, if you were like, hey, this is what we're going to do. But that requires you asking yourself questions about what's the worst case scenario and what would you do in that situation. If you can just get into that practice, it would help tremendously. I'm not saying it's going to cure your anxiety, it's going to stop you from having panic attacks. I am saying it will help lessen the intensity of them. Now, when you are ready, what I want to really invite you to do is give equal airtime to your anxiety, right? Because your anxiety is really good at being like, here are all the things that could go wrong. Here are all the ways they could go wrong. Equal airtimes means, okay, thank you for telling me how all the things could go wrong and the ways they could go wrong. Now, you need to do the opposite. You want to spend as much time with as much energy as you did for how it could go wrong. You want to say, but what if it went right? What's the best case scenario? What if everything worked out the way I thought it would? And this is going to be probably one of the hardest things that you do, because we're really good at saying the worst case scenario, but the best case scenario, we like, girl, that is a pipe dream. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, but this is the work. The work is, what is the best case scenario? So when I asked this question inside the group, it's like a hush came over the crowd, child. Like, people are quiet. I'm like, no, we're going to do this work. Because if you're going to have that energy about worst case scenario and you already believe that your chair is going to tell you this is the worst thing they ever read, I'm going to need you to keep that same energy when I ask you the question of, but what if they read it and say it's the best thing I've ever read in my life? What if they read it and they like, go ahead and schedule the defense? What if they read it and they're like, yep, good to go, move on? What would you do then? And why you need to start doing this is because this is what I see more often. More often, I see the best case scenario coming out and the client freezing. The person, the student in the FYD group freezing. They don't even know what to do. You think if you got everything that you want, I'm talking to you, the listener, you think there's a part of you that thinks like if you got everything that you wanted, if this process was working out perfectly for you, that you'll be good. You'll know exactly how to move forward. And I'm here to tell you, no. Why? Because you haven't even given any thought to it. You don't have a plan. So if somebody comes to you and they're like, this is good, I want to give you this fellowship, or I want to give you this grant, or I want to pay for you to go to this conference, all you need to do is submit a proposal. Okay, maybe this is a bad example, but like you will most likely freeze. You wouldn't necessarily know what to do, because it never probably occurred to you that they would come up to you and say that. It probably never occurs to you that your chair is going to be like, this is amazing, thank you. Or all you need to do is just like one change in the header and you're good to go. When it doesn't occur to you, you don't have a plan for it. And then you freeze. And because you were too busy, enabling your anxiety about the worst case scenario, that you didn't use its powers. Like, your anxiety has great powers. The anxiety is really great at dissecting information. It's only used to trying to check out the dangerous situation. But when you can learn to use it but what happens when the best case scenario comes up? Because your anxiety can help you there too. Because anxiety is not just for quote unquote negative situations. Anxiety could come up even when you're getting the things you want, even when you're having a good time. Anxiety is just an emotion, and it's not necessarily good or bad. It's an emotion, meaning you can use it for multiple purposes. So I want you to start challenging yourself. What's the best case scenario? What if, for shits and giggles, I turned in this draft that I know is not even finished, and I turn it in and see what happens? For shits and giggles, I'm just going to turn in this manuscript for publication. Let's see what happens, right? Because the worst they're going to tell me is a no. But the best they could tell me is, thank you, this will be published on X date. Use your anxiety to figure out what could be the best case scenario and what you would do. Anxiety can be a great tool if you allow it to be, but we first have to stop demonizing it. Yes, you have anxiety. Yes, you're constantly thinking about, but the other shoe is going to drop. Yes, you might even have panic attacks. And isn't there a difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks? I think so. I'm not making it up. But you can have these situations. And what if you looked at it as like, oh, some more information is coming in. This is just my system for information coming in. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not broken. It's just how my body communicates. What is it trying to tell me? If you can get curious about it, it will do wonders. Now, that's me talking about like your everyday anxiety. I am not under any illusion that there's not more like intense forms of anxiety in terms of that it's more related to a chemical imbalance. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I'm just saying on a day-to-day, how can you deal with things? But I will say that you can help out your anxiety by taking care of yourself, right? We have what we call the Scholar Basics inside of the Finish Your Dissertation Program. And it's a practical way for you to know, am I taking care of myself or not? All I ask that you do is drink 64 ounces of water at least, like a day. You drink some water, because you'll be surprised that the reason why you're having a hard time focusing, why you can't sit still, why it feels foggy groggy, you probably dehydrated. You don't know that. You probably dehydrated. So that's number one. Number two, you need to go to sleep or lay down somewhere. If you can't go to sleep, lay down. I'm really fighting the urge to sing the song, okay, y'all? And I'm not going to do it. You're not going to get me to do it. But go lay down for 7 hours at least a day. Even if you can't sleep, be at rest. I don't care if your anxiety is telling you need to go check the email. You say, hey, we're going to check it later. We scheduled it. Because if you're in the program, you scheduled it on Sunday. So you need to remind your brain, your anxiety, hey, we have a plan. We're not breaking our plan. Our plan right now says we're going to lay down for 7 hours and we're going to scroll on this Instagram or this TikTok and we're going to enjoy it. We're not going to get caught up in that we should be doing emails because we have a plan for that, which takes me to number 3. Do you have a plan for that? Do you know what your weekly plan is going to be? How are you going to spend your 10 hours this week towards your dissertation so that your brain doesn't have to worry about it? Number 4, journal. Write out your thoughts. Give your anxiety a space to air out all the things that it's worried about. Write out all of your fears and worries and concerns and questions and things that make you angry and resentful. Write that all out on a page. Spend 10 minutes doing it every day. Don't let it be fancy. It don't gotta be fancy. Don't make it complicated. Just write it out. And then the last thing, move your body. You gotta move your body. I don't care if you walk to the mailbox, you walk around, you turn on a music video and you dance, but you have to move because the anxiety needs a place to go. Anxiety is a bunch of pent up emotion and energy. Where is it gonna go if you're not moving, if you're sitting in one spot all day? That's how we talk about taking care of ourselves inside the group. And I asked them every call, how are you doing on that? It's not, the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to give you something to anchor you every day of like, this is what it means to take care of myself, because when I do these things, my anxiety doesn't have to get larger, it doesn't have to get louder. All right, y'all, that is going to do it today. I really want you to think about this idea of making friends with your anxiety. Let me know your thoughts about this. Again, I want to apologize about it being all over the place, but I think y'all, if you made it this far, low key, I think you enjoyed it. So okay, what is coming up as far as announcements? We are having the spring 2023 reset. If you attended the reset in December where we talked about our goals for 2023 and getting started with the business and what are you going to do writing and publishing wise, we're going to have another one of those on March 18th and March 19th because it's been 3 months. How you doing on those goals? How your writing goes? Are you published yet? What's happening? So every quarter, every 3 months, we're going to have a check-in, and the next check-in is March 18th through the 19th. You can hit the link in the show notes to learn more about what this one looks like and the speakers for this one. I'm really excited about it. And then my last announcement is that Finish Your Dissertation enrollment will begin on April 6th. And so prepare your hearts and your minds if you're coming into this group. You can also hit the link below to get on the wait list so you can make sure you get all the updates, because I do like to drop a surprise or two for those people on the wait list, and especially this round, cough, cough, wink, wink. You want to be on the wait list because I'm going to give you a surprise. Okay, y'all, that is it. I will talk to you next week. Bye for now.